Joker 80th anniversary special #1, because DC love these specials now because they make lots of money off of them. And we are going to work through this book. We're going to talk about the various stories. I think the first thing I would say about this is that I do think overall it's better than the Catwoman one.
Yeah, it's much more in line with what I thought Catwoman was going to be, more of a celebration of the character.
Yeah,
this is definitely a celebration of Joker.
There's definitely more stories as well that I think stick out as being solid at the very least, if not just outright, good.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I'll let you go through them because I only made it to the Tom Taylor before. I was like, I'm over it. About Joker. I already am not a big fan of Joker, so I was already playing with a thin edge here. But yeah, I'll let you go through them.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of old covers, pinups that are sort of early on. The first story is the Scott Snyder and Jock story, which is about a Joker victim. And I think this is actually maybe one of the reasons why it ended up being better than the Catwoman one, is that I always say that if you're going to do a Joker story, it should be about the effect that Joker has on people rather than Joker being the protagonist. And I think a lot of these stories go into that idea. And I think because of that, they're more inventive than the Catwoman stories were for the most part. But it's this victim who's in therapy, and he's got this deformed smile because the Joker toxin plus whatever else has done this to him, and he can't sleep. He's having these nightmares. He's talking about this leather flower that he saw as a kid that he was scared of.
His grandparents, who were tanners, they decided this would be a good gift for our grandson. So they set it a flower made out of animal skins, each petal from a different animal. And I'm like, oh man, this guy was kind of,
sounds
from the start.
Sounds messed up. Yeah, it really does. The psychiatrist has tried to explain to him, because he specializes in trying to help victims of the Joker, survivors of Joker attacks and things like that. And he talks about all the various people that he's helped. He tries to convince them, look, Joker's greatest trait is that he convinces you that he's more than just a man, that he's more than just a psychopath, that he's something else. And what is really notable about that is it sounds like that's kind of what we talk about Batman a lot of the time, that he's more than just a man, he becomes something else, someone else, something else.
Almost like it's escalation.
But he's like, no, he doesn't have that power. The victim takes off, because the mask that he's been told to wear is to eventually help his face. It's like a brace that will eventually fix his smile.
It almost looks like the Hannibal Lecter mask.
Yeah,
but way more gnarly than that. But yeah.
And the end, of course, the psychiatrist goes to his bed that night, and he wakes up and the leather flower's sitting next to him, and he's like, wait, did someone bug my office? How could they possibly know about this story? And the flower sprays acid on his face melts off, and the Joker comes out from under the bed. And
such a creepy visual.
It's a very creepy visual. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of because there was a thing back in Snyder's run about Joker hiding under it was Gordon's bed at one point.
Gordon's bed to listen to him sleep.
I thought that was an interesting callback.
And that's the thing about Scott Snyder. If you follow him on Twitter, or if you've ever met him, he's the most soft-spoken, good-natured, soft-tempered guy. And then you read some of the most dark and twisted stuff that comes out of him, and you're like, I'm glad you're a writer, sir, because if not, I'm afraid of what would happen.
Do you know,
you have an outlet.
I like this story, and I thought the ending is a little bit on the nose, but I think I did like what he was going for here, where the idea that this doctor's trying to convince that the Joker is just a man, he is just this, he's not some boogeyman, to put it in those terms. And at the end, the Joker's like, no, he is. At least he can get to anyone, right, including him. So I kind of I like that idea. So basically, it's a horror story, and when Scott Snyder does a horror story, it tends to be quite good. This is kind of his speciality in a lot of ways. Plus the visual of the guy's face melting off. Car, did you read this?
No, I'm guessing no, because he's so quiet.
No, it's like I said, budget's tight. I have no interest in. I'll look another 100-page special every week, and I'm just. I'm not feeling.
I'm just clarifying, just so I know that you're going to be sitting there for the next half hour or whatever.
I know, but I mean, What can I say?
All right, so Joker could drink. Connor could drink some booze. I mean, Joker could probably drink some booze as well. I mean, I don't know if Joker needs alcohol. I feel like he's just naturally drunk.
Well, I
All
don't
the
think
time.
that. I think that he's one of those people that's a teetotaler. Or he could if he wanted to. He doesn't have anything against it, but he's just like, nah, I don't need it. Imagine a drunk Joker. No, thank you.
He's probably safer. He's probably too like sleepy to do anything.
I don't know, man. I've met plenty of rage-filled drinkers. Happy drunk versus the rage drunk. No, thank you.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying though. Joker already has like all this erratic rage in him that he may actually go more docile when he's.
I don't know. That's how I know we ran in different groups. So all the people I knew that were jerks, alcohol only made them bigger jerks. It was never like, oh hey, you're a lot cooler when you drink. It's never been that with me.
Okay.
It does mellow some people out.
Some people, but not the guys I knew. Let's just put it that way.
Because some people are, mellow drunks, angry drunks. Some people just get sleepy. Some people,
I tend to get sleepy if I only have like 1 or 2 drinks, and then once you have another
Which is
one,
why you
that's
always have a dozen.
No. Look, this is only 2 for now.
For
now,
now.
I'll have a dozen.
Yeah.
But, I mean,
Anyway, sorry. What's the next book?
That's the thing about numbers. They just keep
Sorry.
going up. So, next story. A couple of more classic covers. And the next one is the Tynan story with Yanin on the art. And this actually, it's this dean in the college who's giving this girl into trouble because they wanted to do like a dress as your hero day at the campus because one of the girls, specifically this girl's roommate, their sister or someone that was a victim in a Joker attack. So again, we're doing the impact of Joker on normal people's lives, which I thought was interesting, and I like that. And it does this neat thing where over the course of the story, she's basically this rebel who tries to fight against the establishment, talks about him just being the man, and then breathes smoke in his face, which then makes him start laughing. And she talks about how she got the recipe for Joker gas off the internet, which is very realistic and terrifying in a comic book context.
It made me think too that which is something I haven't thought about before. There are definitely people obsessed with the bat villains or super villains or whatever. Just like there's people obsessed with serial killers. Sure, there's the people with passing interests, like my wife will watch any serial killer documentary because that stuff fascinates her. But then there's the others that write to the serial killers in prison and whatnot, and that's where this girl ends up becoming. Because I don't want to give away.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, yeah,
happens.
the reveal here is that she starts putting on makeup, and it becomes very clear very quickly this is Punchline, and this is, maybe not the full origin of Punchline, but this is the moment she really becomes Punchline, and she's going to help murder people. She wants to actually, she's that extreme. She puts on the costume, and she basically says society's all one big joke, and I'm the Punchline, right? That's kind of her thing. And then Joker comes out of the closet at the end. He goes, "You know what? You've convinced me. You're ready for the heavy stuff." Because she says, "I'm ready to get serious." And he's like, "No, my dear Punchline. What comes next is going to be funny." And it's basically because this is the thing when we get to Batman later is that Punchline is not someone who's cracking a lot of jokes like Harley Quinn does. It kind of points out the differences between them, and it's setting up that she's got this very serious sense of humor in comparison.
Yeah, and I do like that this is not just Harley too.
Yeah.
She's her own type, and that again, when she showed up in Hell Arisen, I started thinking, she seems more like a Mercy Graves type than a Harley. And people are like, oh, what about the love interest thing? I'm like, not just that. Like, sure, she might be a Joker girlfriend or whatever. But more or less, I do feel like she's more of an acolyte than Harley, who Harley was someone that was corrupted by Joker.
The word I would use, okay, well that's a big key difference, of course, is that Harley was basically seduced by the Joker and like basically driven mad. I think the key difference though for me is that I would just use the word devout. Punchline is devout and is a zealot and believes in the chaos that the Joker's going to bring to the society.
Right, she sought him out. Harley wasn't seeking out Joker. It just happened where it seems like went out of her way. And I think that's super important going forward. Because especially we saw on one of the covers, it looks like we're going to get a Harley versus Punchline in, was it 98?
Yeah, it makes sense. I enjoyed this one too, and the art's really good, of course. Yanin's really solid. Yanin. I think
his Joker is so good because he's so angular. And and it sticks out because I always feel like Janen's is very soft. That's why I think it looks so nice to look at. Like everything has kind of a curve to it. Not his Joker. His Joker is pointy and it really sticks out.
I would describe him as just a more menacing Neil Patrick Harris and a Joker makeup.
Sure.
He's got that scrawny, bony kind of quality to him, which is cool. So I mean, at this point, I was 2 for 2, which was the complete opposite of Catwoman, where the first two were the two of the roughest ones. So this was a nice change, at least to like set me up. Some of these are going to be good, and that's a nice place to be. The third one was a bit weird though. It is, so it's this story where Batman's been killed by the Joker, and Lois is reporting from the Batcave, and she talks to Alfred, and then at the memorial, we get to hear Gordon. Well, Gordon's on the news, and then we get to hear from like Superman and some of the others at the memorial, and so when Gordon like basically said his line from Dark Knight, where he says, he's the hero that Gotham City always needed but never deserved, I was like, okay, that's a nice touch. And then like the very next page, like Harvey Dent's giving a speech, and he basically does the ending speech from Dark Knight, and then when Joker shows up in the crowd, he's got "Why So Serious" written on him. I'm like, you know what, I appreciated the first nod to Dark Knight. I think once you've done 3 of these though, I'm kind of like, okay, you maybe did a bit too much here.
Well, and here's the thing, they try to make it look like you're only seeing half of Two-Face, but on the first panel that you see him, because it's a judge, he has his full, so you're like either commit or don't. I felt like, I don't know if that's in the writing or if that was Dan Moore's art, because on the other 2 follow-ups, it's you don't see half of his face.
Yeah, I think it's more of a thematic thing. Either this Harvey never became Two-Face, or he's been cured, I guess. I don't know what's going on there, but like in Mr. Freeze talking about how Bruce Wayne funded like his research that saved his wife's life, and just, I mean, I like elements of this story, and I was kind of frustrated at first because I thought, well, I'm always a fan of Joker not wanting to kill Batman, and that's part of the fun. But to be fair, he does kind of like, once he's in the crowd, his narration's very much like, like all these people are like cheering and celebrating, the honor of Batman, and I'm like, no, I'm the one who's really sad. I'm the one who's really affected by this. Right. Like, what do I do now? But I guess what I don't appreciate is that this entire thing just builds up to a joke. Like a really dumb, like that. So basically, Joker's walking away from the memorial. He doesn't like, because he's got like a bomb wrapped around his chest that he doesn't use. He just walks away. He says, "Well, I'm the most evil clown prince there is, and now I don't have my audience. My audience, the only audience that appreciated what I did was Batman. So what do I do now? What does the most evil bastard on the planet do now?" And then the final page of the story, he's working at the DMV.
Like, this is a Ron Swanson joke.
This is such a this is such a, it doesn't fit. I mean, it's not it's the GMV because it's Gotham version, but whatever.
Vehicles. That still doesn't make sense.
I don't know. It all felt like it was a big dumb joke, and this one's actually co-written by Greg Miller. Is this Greg Miller from Kinda Funny?
Yes, it is.
Is that Greg Miller? That is.
Which I might get raked over the calls for this. I don't understand his appeal. A lot people have tried to tell me, "Oh, he loves Superman. You'll like him along," and stuff that I've seen. He might be a nice guy, but I don't know.
I don't all right.
Appeal.
I mean, he's
like, he's not. I don't know. Video game personalities aren't my cup of tea. Well, I know he started with that type of stuff.
I mean, it's mostly video game stuff that he does, so you're not obviously a big video game person, but
no, but
Greg Miller's all right in terms of like he's a nice enough person. He's.
I'm more disappointed this with Gary Whitta, who's a name through Star Wars, and so it was a very uneven story.
Yeah, Dan Mora's art's solid. Don't get me wrong. I think the art's perfectly.
Yeah, I like Dan Mora.
Good. So, I felt this all built to this punchline that just wasn't. I don't know. It felt a bit like, okay, it was all a joke. It was all just building up to this joke. Fair enough. Next story is the Denny O'Neil one. It's called Introducing the Dove Corps, art by Jose Luis Garcia Lopez. This is the Joker. Basically, he joins this team of like this pacifist
Non-lethal
Marines who go into like rescue situations, and he's wearing his his Hawaiian shirt and his hat. Yeah, he's Killing Joke outfit basically. And there's a moment where he gets the camera off one of the guys. Like, oh, I'm going to take lots of great photos with this, and I was like, this is a bit, I don't know, too, like, I'll get it, because this is the camera he's going to use in the Killing Joke. I don't know. That was a bit weird. The rest of the story is that he kind of agrees to go non-lethal, and he makes this weird gun that fires, what is it?
They're itchy. It's an itching powder. It's his own
there you
concoction.
go. And so they all use this itching powder gun, and it's a successful mission. They save the hostages, and then he turns around at the end and says, well, that was kind of fun, and you've made me a member of the Corps because I've proven myself to you. But you know what? And then he just lots of gunshots, and the last page is him having killed the entire team, going, killing is just so much fun, though. So
yeah. And the crux that made him want to do this is he goes, what's unexpected? Because whatever's unexpected is always funny. Oh, well, I'll go work with this new Corps for the UN that doesn't kill people, because Joker not killing people is hilarious. And then at the end, it's basically like, well, no, he's always, he's almost a victim of his impulses. He's never not gonna be Joker.
It's kind of a weird story, because like, do these people know who Joker is? And if they do, like, what?
Why'd they let him go?
Yeah,
like, I don't know. It definitely felt of a time where I had said about the Catwoman one, where this felt like the Denny O'Neil Joker from the 70s.
Yeah, it feels like of an era. It feels like a kids' TV show where the villains can just get into schemes every week because no one knows who they are. That feels like that kind of era of villain. So I don't necessarily I don't dislike it. It's actually kind of a fun enough read. But it is just kind of weird in the context of like modern storytelling. Not even tropes, just modern storytelling kind of standards, I guess, in terms of how we treat characters. But I mean, it's a throwback, and it wasn't a bad read. So there you go. Unfortunately, Connor missed us telling about the story co-written by Greg Miller that ends in a joke where Joker ends up working at the DMV.
That's the Gary Whitta one too.
Oh, okay. Is that the one with Greg Miller?
Yeah. I wanted to point that out since you came back, because it was worth hearing about. Cedric pin-up, of course, in there.
Looks nice.
Yeah. Very,
very Harleen-esque.
Oh, yeah, very. And then there's a story here with Batman kind of getting to the Joker with some really iffy art on most pages, although there was a couple of pages where I thought the art kind of worked from certain angles, bizarrely.
Very Nightmare-esque.
Yeah, there's a top-down, because this is the thing, I really like the color palette. On this story, but there's a page that looking top down where Batman's got Joker by the neck, and there's like a lot of the blonde like henchmen are grabbing him. I thought that was actually a really good panel, but there's a lot of the other panels or pages where the face is just a bit too rigid. There's too much going on. Basically this is called The War Within. It's this Peter J. Tomasi story with Simone Bianchi on the art, and it's essentially, the twist is that this is actually Joker as Batman trying to like think like Batman would, and kind of like try to. So at the end we see that he's actually in the bat suit and he's like killed all of his henchmen because he's trying to imagine himself as Batman to sort of predict him, and that's just kind of one of these so-so ones where I kind of get the idea. I don't know if the execution's all there though.
It didn't work for me.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like I got to it. It was kind of a pain to read too, just with the way that sometimes it rhymed, sometimes it didn't. Like it didn't have a flow. Like I felt like if you're gonna start rhyming, you need to stay to it. I don't know. Yeah, it was kind of a mess.
That's fair. They're definitely not one of the stronger ones for me either.
No.
But then of course they follow up that with the Riley Rossmo.
Which I did not mind the story. I just wish I liked the art more. Like, because again, I feel like Rossmo works in places. Because I didn't mind his Batman and Shadow book that he did with, was that Orlando and Snyder?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was. Do you know what? It's not as egregious series art because it's not got anyone with big hair with the big foreheads.
Right.
It's kind of shying away from that. It's still very Riley Rossmo though, so it's still not great.
No, but and also I don't feel like Joker fits the Riley Rossmo mold. I feel like that's why Martian Manhunter worked, because it could be, this weird kind of thing. But in this story, I like that it's Joker's nightmare where his insanity plea doesn't work. Instead of getting sent to Arkham, he gets sent to Blackgate. And
well, I mean,
he gets executed. Yeah,
what a shock that the story is actually quite good. I mean, it's Paul Dini, right? So I like that it's a good Joker story in the sense that Joker's like basically complaining that none of the big villains are here to see him die. I did like how deliciously evil he was. Like the people like behind the glass of the electric chair. Yeah. He's basically saying, "Oh, I probably killed your children or friends or loved ones, and I don't remember their names." He's just being awful.
And because it's Dini, I could easily hear it in Mark Hamill's Joker at the same time. Him saying this the nastiest stuff. And then like when they go to put him in the electric chair, he talks about how you're supposed to put a sponge on top of him. He goes, "Oh, we're out of water," and Joker's like, "I thought you might be," just like because he knows for all the bad things he's done, it's coming to him, and this is why it's his nightmare. And then his death finally makes Batman laugh.
Yeah.
So that's what his nightmare is that he his final thing is.
Can I just say, I did like the moment where he's given his last meal and he asks for a pie, and he immediately throws it in the guard's face and says, "I've been waiting my whole life for that gag."
Yeah,
that's pretty good.
It's pretty good. Yeah.
But I kind of like, because obviously Denny we associate a lot with Harley and stuff because of his background.
Mm-hmm.
And the ending is Harley telling that back when she was with the Joker, he used to have these nightmares. And Ivy says, "Oh, is that what you saw him in then? Is that why you were with him for so long? Because you saw this like sort of more innocent, like kind of side to him. This side was more vulnerable." Right. And she says, "No, that's why I finally left him. I was never in it. I was never in the dreams." Right. And it makes that fella point that he's obsessed with Batman. He was never obsessed with Harley. Harley's just there to him.
And that's always been Dini's take with Harley and Joker, and that it was her. Almost Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner constantly trying to get Mr. J's affection. And that's what eventually leads her to strike out on her own. And because he did Gotham City Sirens, right? Dini?
Was that
he did, yes. Yeah. He did the first like 12 or 18 issues, and then that was a little bit of Lobdell at the end.
Right, so that was
well,
I did read the Dini stuff.
They're collected in 2 trades now. I think 2 thick trades. And I think Dini's stuff does continue into the second trade
for a little bit.
Stop in Lobdell.
Because I want to say that's kind of the first inkling we get that Harley's done with Joker. What was in there, and that comes from Dini, who created her.
I think it's interesting because obviously so many Harley stories now are about life beyond the Joker because they want to do other things with Harley because she's such this big successful character and popular character.
Right.
I think it's interesting that you have Denny, who's like so entwined with the history of Harley that even he's writing stories where it's after Joker now. It almost makes it feel more official that even he's saying, okay, she's beyond the Joker now.
That's what I feel. That was his beat with her, with Sirens, because that's the earliest I can remember. So he started that almost, and now they've kind of taken with it, and now every story is Harley and Joker, and him not letting it go. I mean, that was the entire subplot of Suicide Squad that got cut, I guess, right? So and then the entire movie of Birds of Prey.
Of course, I mean, of course. What's his name? David Ayer. Now that Snyder's getting his cut, he's like, "Hey, by the way, guys, I've got like a 4-hour cut of Suicide Squad that y'all want to see, don't you?"
Thank you.
You know what the thing is with that? I believe there is I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't want to see his take on Joker that much, but I believe there is a better version of that movie.
That movie felt victim of editing and chopping.
It's definitely there's definitely a more coherent movie. I don't think I like it still, but it's definitely a more coherent movie.
Yeah.
Before all the editing nonsense.
Yeah.
So, I actually quite like the story in this one. It's a shame that it's the Rosmoir, but I actually do like the story. I enjoyed reading the story. So, that's cool. And then we wrote the Tom Taylor story with Eduardo Rizzo on the art called Birthday Bugs. And leave it to Tom Taylor to somehow tell something that's kind of a sweet Joker story, but also incredibly dark at the same time.
It's so dark, but at the end, I was like, "No, this is a Joker that I like." If this was the new, where sometimes Joker has it in him, like, "Oh, this kid, I like this kid. I see a lot of me in this kid."
Yeah.
And you see him almost be tender towards the kid.
Yeah.
It adds that new layer.
The thing that makes Joker like this kid, because Joker's basically coming to like sort of see a henchman who didn't show up to a job, and he comes up into this kid who's playing with spiders or bugs or whatever, and he's like, "Oh, what are you doing?" He's like, "Oh, I've got these bugs in the box." He's like, "Well, do you ever kill them?" He's like, "Only if they try to escape. It's no fun playing with something if it's dead." And that's what makes Joker like this kid, because that's his thing with Batman, right? It's like, there's no fun playing with him if he's dead.
Right? What would I do without you?
Exactly. In fact, it's funny you made that Heath Ledger Joker impression there, because the overall look isn't inspired, but the mouth definitely made me think of Ledger because of the smeared lipstick.
I feel like that, and I feel the hair. I feel like the kind of almost Johnny Rotten, right? I was never into Sex Pistols. So whoever the lead singer of Sex Pistols was, that's who this reminds me of. Yeah.
So, and I like some of the inspirations for Joker throughout the book. Even though there was too much of it in the Greg Miller one, the idea that Dark Knight and some of the other movie versions, because there's another story that comes up where or maybe it was one that was already happened where the pale moonlight was mentioned. So I do like that it's like, okay, it's not just the comic books history of Joker that we're kind of honoring.
Right.
There's more to it than that, which is cool.
So Joker ends up, this kid, no one's showing up to his birthday and whatnot. So because his dad didn't mail out the invitation, so Joker takes it in his own hands to round up.
This stuff is so dark. He's literally got like a knife to a little girl's like face, going, "You're going to go to this party."
Well, and he's threatening one of their cats, and it looks like he bashed a dad with a toaster.
Oh yeah, but it's the one.
Make them go.
It's the one above that though, where the girl's on the shoot in the playground, and he's literally got a butcher knife like to her face.
Knife that looks like
It's so good. Like it's so delightfully dark but sweet at the same time. And then basically Joker, when the dad shows up to the party, he cuts off the guy's fingers and says, "I'm not going to kill you because, as your own child pointed out, that I can't do anything with you if you're dead." So he just cuts off a bunch of his fingers, which neatly leads to him saying, "Hot dogs are ready." Which he's going to feed a bunch of kids some human fingers, and the little kid gives him the box of bugs at the end as a present.
As a thank you.
This is.
Sergio, I'm touched. I will treasure them. Again, I read these. Also, there's certain lines that I read as Mark Hamill, Joker. That's one of them. But yeah, it was that. Needless to say, this was the best story. This is the last one I read, to be fair. Also,
okay, yeah,
best story thus far.
Yeah, I really good stuff. Really good stuff. So that's 3 good stories to great stories. That last one, the Taylor one's fantastic. So. Unsurprising, but no, I really like the first 2 as well, and the next one's not bad actually. The art is pretty solid in the next one. It's a story about, and the artist and the writer aren't in the first couple of pages, so I'll tell you who it is at the end. But it's about Jokers, and again, this just feels a little bit Dark Knight inspired. He's in a bank robbery, and they're all wearing clown masks, and it's told a little bit out of order, where this guy who works there, this intern, who was in a back room when everything broke out, basically called for help, but he snuck up in one of the gunmen and killed him, not intentionally necessarily killing him, but ultimately killing him with a fire extinguisher by bashing him over the back of the head. And it kind of freaks him out, and the framing device is Joker kind of talking to him, still in the clown mask, saying, is this the first time you've ever killed anyone? And he's sort of crying as he says no, and he's really heartbroken about it. And the ultimate point of the story is that Joker, when he eventually he's getting to the end of the story, he says to him that, hey, you know what? The guy's name's Ronald. He's like, hey, you know what, Ronald? It turns, as it happens, I actually have a thing for heroes. Rather than victims or anything like that. Again, sort of hinting at his admiration of Batman, like someone who's willing to do something and stand up to him is more interesting to him. So he actually just kills the rest of his henchmen. He pulls off his mask and just kills all the people who were doing the job with them. And he's like, yeah, I've got a bit of a crush on heroes. And again, very kind of Heath Ledger-y, the hair and the smeared makeup. Because sooner or later they become martyrs. So he shoots everyone else that he was working with and walks off and says that one day he'll be back to check up on him. So, it's a solid little Joker story. Again, tying into kind of some Dark Knight imagery, but with this idea of how Joker views Batman and other possible heroes. So, yeah.
That's Albuquerque and Eduardo Medeiros.
Yeah, they both co-wrote, and then Albuquerque did the art. So obviously the art's really good, as I said. Really dark, lots of shadows, very expressive. The horror, the situation. Again, the stories that treat Joker like it's a horror thing work the best. Taylor's story was kind of an weird exception, as it was going for more of this almost... I mean, I don't like this movie, but there's almost like a Beetlejuice-esque vibe to how Joker interacts with the kid.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Also, the next cover it shows is one of my favourite covers of all time. It's the Detective Comics 880, where it's Joker's face been made up of the bats.
Yep.
Gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. And then that takes us on to the second last story, which is a story about this...
Tony Daniel.
This is Tony Daniel one.
Creative.
This is the mob boss who's going to see a priest to confess about all the things that he's done and confess that he's probably going to try and kill Joker because he came with his family. Most of his family are dead now. But the twist is that Joker's actually the priest wearing a mask, and he pulls off the mask at the end and kills the mob boss and just walks off. This one is just kind of thrilling in the mediocre to okay territory. It's not terrible. It's not particularly inspired either. There's been better stories already in this issue about him either being disguised or pulling off a mask or whatever. It feels more just like, this is meant to be about Joker like replacing traditional crime families, which is an interesting part of Batman mythology, but I don't think this story's particularly great. It's kind of reminiscent of just Tony Daniels working Batman in general when he was writing them, which is it's okay and readable, but it's not doing anything particularly great either. So that was that one, which takes us on to the final story, which is the Azzarello and Behermo story. And I've got to say, Behermo's art here isn't kind of up to his typical standard. It's it's going for a style. Don't get me wrong. It's not that it's just that he's. It's not like he's phoning it in. It's that they're intentionally going for a different type of pulpy style. I just don't think it speaks to Behermo's strengths, and as a result, I don't like it as much as what his art usually looks like. It's kind of they're going for this weird meta thing. There's some meta references to the dick being covered up in the Black Label book. Where they're Poison Ivy. Someone says so. We come in mid conversation. Someone says so they darkened it, and then Ivy says, "Did it get bigger?" And then so it does this weird kind of meta thing where Joker's like getting in and out. Basically, what it is though, it's essentially Joker in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, where there's an evil nurse who's Nuts Ratchet from the movie, and he's definitely the Jack Nicholson-esque character, which I guess is a kind of a neat callback in a way because Jack Nicholson played Joker.
That's cool. I might have to go back and read this one. I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah. And he's kind of fighting back, and I don't want to spoil the ending too much of the movie, but let's just say it ends in a very similar fashion to that movie, and I love that movie actually, so I don't want to spoil it, but it ends in the same way. Kind of some changes, but honestly, this one was just okay. Like the meta stuff was kind of weird. Once I realized it was doing One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, I was like, I wish it just sort of did that on its own rather than all the weird meta stuff at the start. It just kind of felt a bit erratic to me at the beginning. But that was the last story. Wrap it up. But I mean, I really like 3 of those stories. I flat out loved one of those 3 at that. There was a couple of decent ones, a couple of mediocre ones. I'd say the Denny one was good, just with the art not being to my taste. There was only 1 or 2 that I thought were outright kind of wonky in a way that I didn't like. So overall, I'd say this was more of a success, this one, than the Catwoman. This felt more like the sort of the balance of quality that I'd come to expect in these, when there's just a few good ones.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't as disappointing as the Catwoman one. It actually fit more of the honoring the character, like you just said with that the Azzarello and Bermejo one. That one seems to be, this is the spirit of the character told in a fun way. What we're gonna do One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest with Joker, in Arkham, and that's kind of what you want to see in this. So I like the meta one in Catwoman last week so much because it was.
Does this mean that we have to do next time we have some sort of reason to do a Joker special? Do we have to do someone doing like A Knight's Tale but with the Joker because they have to do a Heath Ledger movie, or maybe 10 things I hate about you? No. 10 things I hate about you.
Again, wouldn't say no. I love 10 things. I also really like A Knight's Tale. So
I've never seen A Knight's Tale, but I've seen 10 things.
It's very early 2000s fun.
Sure.
Like it plays with the anachronistic parts. Plus it's got a
Joseph Gordon-Levitt
from Firefly.
I was thinking of 10 things. You're thinking of Alan Tudyk.
No. Huh?
Alan Tudyk you're thinking of.
Yeah, it's got Tudyk. That was the first time I remember seeing him. He's a lot of fun in that one.
I have a question. How do you do the Brokeback Mountain take with Joker?
Oh, Joker and Batman. Easy. The race itself.
Do you think that'll work nicely?
Yeah. That's perfect.
You could call it Brokeback Mountain too.
And you just have Joker say to Batman, "I wish I knew how to quit you." It's perfect.
Yeah.
Absolutely perfect. It's so easy.
Yeah. You mentioned the Catwoman. In comparison, I did see Liam Sharp talking about his story over the week, and I know you guys were like, it wasn't up to his usual standard, and to explain that, I don't think he put this out there to explain reviews, but more he kind of just shared the story of how he got the gig on doing his story. Basically, someone pulled out whatever reason, we don't really know the exact, but they were like, we need to fill 3 pages quick, so he pitched the story, wrote it, and drew it, inked it, and colored it, all within 24 hours.
Whoa!
And that's a very impressive. But at the same time,
I
don't know.
Couldn't we just have had 97 pages?
I guess they'd already promised this many pages, so they're like, shit, we need to do it.
Which again, it makes sense to why the quality wasn't there, and it kind of felt like an afterthought.
Because it was literally an afterthought.
It was literally, I need to knock this out in a day. The entire process, like the pitch, getting the pitch approved, writing it, drawing it, everything in 24 hours. That's a busy day.
Yeah, good on Sharp too for playing with the 9 lives idea of Selena, but at the same time, I'm not going to excuse it.
Yeah, no, ultimately it's still not that good, but I mean, at the very least, I won't blame him for it, because, like, well, if you had to do a 3-page story, write art and everything in one day, that'd probably be the quality you'd come out with, or even worse.
I remember being in film school in my production 1 class when you're learning, making all these shorts, with the stuff that you learn. My teacher always saying, running into difficulties is not an excuse for things, so, like, just because something happened, you still have to have your projects turned in, and I feel like Liam Sharp is an expert on that. So.
As for
like I said, I don't think he was making an excuse when he did it. I think he was just like, here's a fun story.
As for ratings, I mean, I guess I don't know if Matt should rate it because he didn't finish it, but I'll give it a rating. I feel like having 3 worthwhile, like, stories, 3 stories that I recommend reading, is enough to kind of say that it's worth reading the book. I think when it comes to these specials, because 3 is a good number. 3 is like, okay, you've got a trio of stories, then you've got some other ones that are pretty solid as well, just not as good, and obviously a couple of not so good ones. But I'm gonna give this a 7.5 overall. I would say, you've got the 3 stories that are really worth reading. There's probably a couple that you could skip, but I mean, it's hard to know what those are before you go in, unless someone like us tells you. If you listen to this review, and we tell you which ones are good or not. Yeah. But I
mean, suffice to say that if Tom Taylor is doing one of these, it's probably worth it, because I still need to track down the Supergirl story.
Oh God, it's so good.
That was a good little short story.
Yeah. So I would highly recommend checking this out, more so than the Catwoman one. I think, I mean, not that I'm surprised that Joker got more love than Catwoman, but I mean, I don't know if that's intentional.
I mean, they've all been around roughly the same amount of time, right? Joker, Catwoman, Batman.
More or less, yeah.
So it makes sense that these are the 3 they went with.
Well, I mean, it literally, like, was... That's why they fell, like, back to back in the months, because they both debuted right back at the start of the Batman.
I know you had Catwoman started in Batman issue 1, right?
So Joker.
Was Joker as well, okay. So which is obviously slightly after Batman, which was it was like, a few months after.
Because Golden Age stuff's kind of hard to read, so I've not read much, but I have read Batman issue 1 and Joker, because that was back when there was like 4 stories per issue, because they were shorter, but obviously more dense. Joker was in both the first and last story in the first issue of Batman.
Okay, I mean, I've read it as well at some point in my time reading comics, just out of a curiosity factor more than anything. But I don't remember it that well, to be honest.
Oh, I mean, not that.
And more to the point is, I couldn't have told you if that was Joker's first appearance off the top of my head, or if he'd appeared in a issue of Detective before that.
No, I can tell you that's his first appearance. The only other thing I can tell you about the story is that he basically announces he's going to kill certain people, so the police sort of, like, get around people, and eventually he targets Bruce Wayne. So that's kind of like that middle section of Dark Knight with him targeting people. It's kind of based on that element of issue 1 of Batman. But
so, real quick, now that we're talking about this, I read where it was something because of Denny O'Neil, but people were saying that the Dark Knight version of Batman is one of the worst versions, like the Nolan, and I just don't see that.
I would say it's a very different version, because he's not really a detective, is he? Let's be fair.
No, but that's not what that crux is. The crux is of the Dark Knight is this is a man that's been inspired to change things, right?
In terms of his ideologies, he's the best on-screen Batman.
Right, and so I see a lot of people going...
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
That's what I meant.
Yeah. But, like, so I was reading this because I think a lot of people... I'm trying to remember the context. People were talking about Denny O'Neil's Batman, and I don't know. I feel there's a lot of the Denny O'Neil Batman in Nolan's because of the Frank Miller inspiration with Year One and then whatnot. But
I mean, Talia being in it at all.
What's that?
Talia being in the third one.
Well, and I remember Denny O'Neil going that he felt that they should have swapped the actresses. That his version of Talia is much closer to Anne Hathaway, than you know, and that's not that he was upset, but he was like, I think he got the actresses reversed. You know, he could have had, you know, Selena as I'm drawing a blank on the actress's name. Anyways,
Marion Cotillard?
Yes, Cotillard. So, but no, I not that this, like, I want to make sure that I'm not disrespecting people's viewpoints or whatnot, but you ever been hit with stupidity that it just leaves you like
confounded?
Where you're like, Nolan's Batman's the worst version of Batman. I'm just like, okay, you can not like those movies, but it's a pretty damn good version of Batman. And just because he's not a detective doesn't disqualify it. I feel there's a lot of overlap with the people that defend him. He didn't actually kill people in Batman v Superman. I was like, well, no, he did. Guns on it.
At worst, I will take first-degree manslaughter. For that.
Right, that's it. So like, I feel like there's a lot of overlap with those. But I was reading these comments either on Twitter or Reddit. I can't remember where. I was just like, I don't understand you.
I mean,
Matt, why are you opening cans of worms here? Because people are going to start commenting about how technically there's deaths in the Nolan movies too. There is.
I know.
Technically there is, but
that's fine. I'm just saying.
There's context here.
Yeah, I mean.
This is why the episodes are so goddamn long, you know that? Because Matt has just these random thoughts that he has to go on and we end up spending 10 minutes on.
We can move on. We were talking about Joker iterations and that one just sparked to mind, you know?
Okay, yes. Alright. Alright, Joker. That was Joker.
Rate it.
I did rate it. 7.5.
Give it a 7.5. Come on, Matt, keep up.
Yeah.